Di saat yang sama, mereka bekerja sepenuh hati, mengejar kesempurnaan dengan penuh kesabaran.
Recording in progress.
Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. A very good morning ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests. I'd like to welcome everyone to IP Talks and Creative Setting Session for the third edition of World Conference on Creative Economy 2022. Can I have a round of applause? Thank you. It's an honor and privilege for me, Adriana Mira, as MC for this lovely morning. First of all, I'd like to extend a warm welcome and gratitude to Director of Creative Industry Intellectual Property Development, Bapak Robinson Sinaga. Selamat pagi, Pak. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome and gratitude to Honorable Speaker, creative actors, and to all offline and online attendants. Ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda is the national anthem of Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let us pray to Almighty God to show our gratitude. And the praying we'll do individually. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's step up to the next agenda, IP Talks panel session with the theme, Empowering Women. And as we realize, women are already making a difference in the creative industry. Their creativity can support to improve their livelihoods, and IP also is important to ensure that women's voices are heard. Utilization of IP rights is a transformative step for women entrepreneurs who want to build their ideas into a global brand. Therefore, we present IP Talks, IP and Creative Economy, Empowering Inspiring Women. One small step for a woman entrepreneurs, one giant leap for Indonesian women. I'd like to invite our moderator today, Bapak Dias Satria.
Good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat pagi and salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Welcome to the World Conference on the Creative Economy. I'm Dia Satria. I'm a Deputy of Foreign Partnership in Indonesia Creative City Network. Today we have three distinguished speakers. I think I will invite our distinguished speakers. Okay, the first, I would like to invite Nadira Australia. Please give an applause. And the second, Dina Deliana, please come. And the last but not least, Bahtiar Hafiz, please come to the stage. Okay, it's really interesting today because we have a very interesting topic about the intellectual properties and creative economy, empowering, inspiring women. Talking about the intellectual properties, I think it's a very sexy issue today. The intellectual property itself is a category of the property. It is an intangible creation of the human intellect. For example, like a copyright, patent, trademark, and the trade secret. And I think we are all today, nowadays, enjoying the intellectual properties, like a medical cure, vaccine, digital technology, etc. And also because the intellectual property itself, it can let the innovation grow because of the economic incentive. Today we will discuss and get the lesson learned from our speakers about the link between the intellectual properties and the creative economy, and more importantly, how give the impact to the economic, to the woman empowerment. We understand from the Central Bureau of the Statistics 2021, most of the small and medium enterprise are women, around 64.5%. That's why the woman empowerment is one of the important things to support, because it can also strengthen their social and economic contributions. And of course, we understand that the digital economy is growing so fast today, and also it can creating more spread out benefit when we investing more on the woman empowerment. Today, we will talk four things in our discussion today. The first, the speakers will talk about the current conditions, especially the access of women and their potential in the creative economy. The second, they will also talk about how to promote the woman empowerment, especially how it gives an impact to the creative economy and more impact to the inclusive development. The third, they will also talk about how the use of IP and how it beneficial to the woman creativity and innovation. And the last is about the impact of the digital. Okay, we have three speakers. I would like to invite Nadira first, I think. Okay, Nadira is the CEO of the Woman Works, the acting. Okay, you have 15 to 20 minutes to present. Please, Nadira.
Alright, first of all, thank you. Terima kasih banyak untuk semua yang sudah hadir. Thank you very much for being here with me today. My name is Nadira Australia, and I am the current acting CEO or Chief of Staff of Womenworks. So as you can see here, today we'll be talking about IP and creative economy, or empowering, inspiring women. If you would allow me to actually stand up, because I do feel a bit more comfortable doing it that way. Okay, so quick introduction of who we are and what we're doing. Let me take a hold of this. Okay, who we are and what we're doing, and the reason that I'm here today. So as you've heard from Mas Diaz, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm currently working with Womenworks, and here we advance gender equality contribution in the workforce through through our recruiting platform, and also employer branding opportunities and mentoring sessions. Though there is one thing that I would actually want to really underline, is that we are a woman-first platform. And what does woman first mean? That will be something that we will be discussing in the presentation after this. So here, this is my team in Women Work. So I actually have two other co-founders here, which are Wendy Natriafi and Francisca Pewe, both already very active in not only the startup scene, but actually in active being women entrepreneurs. So we have Wendy Natriafi, who's actually also in Awantunay, and also Francisca Pewe, who is currently on her scholarship with LPDP at Stanford. So let's start off with the same understanding of the creative industry in Indonesia. As you can see here, the creative industry in Indonesia is actually something that is very large. Here, creative industry is not, people would assume it's artists, painters, people that are very specifically disebut seniman in Indonesian. But actually, the creative industry itself is a place where skills, creativity, and talents all contribute towards creating a better quality of life and also to create opportunities for employment. And here, the problem actually begins. So let's talk numbers. Taking from BPS 2021, there are currently over 65 million SMEs in Indonesia, or you can actually assume there's one SME for every 5 Indonesians. 5 Indonesians. So that's actually a very large number, right? 64.5 SMEs, or actually 39 million SMEs, are owned by women. So you would assume quality of life is better for women, right? But actually, so we're still talking numbers here. 13.8 million of the whole women population in Indonesia are living below the national poverty line. But 13.5 of males are living below the national poverty line. As you can see, even with the enormous amount of women already active in SMEs, the poverty line is still below for women. So this is the question, right? SMEs are one of the fastest growing sectors in the country and shows high potential. And a quick disclaimer here, this doesn't mean that the creative industry is only limited toward SMEs, right? But we want to only cover this during this session, as 15 minutes is not enough to cover everything. Okay, so Indonesia has significant unmet demand for credit, capacity for further growth, and also women entrepreneurs basically handling their own SMEs. And why? So core challenges women actually face in their journey, and this is based on the 2018 IRA report. So there's a lot of things or pointers that are actually contributed by the patriarchy culture. And the reason why we state it as a culture is because it's passed down from generation to generation. Hence why with Women Work specifically, we focus on being women first. Because we understand we want to support women, but we can't do that without the support of the male counterparts in the industry. We know that they're actually, the decision makers. They're the people already up there. They're the people that we want to have on our side. If they're actively understanding the support that they can contribute for us, they're actively advocating, it's not only them that they're impacting, but they are role modeling and showing for their other male counterparts in the industry. They're showing other maybe governmental issues. They're showing other counterparts in the productive industry, counterparts in the professional industry. So we always want to be women first, but supported by our male counterparts. So here, as you can see, time commitment, collateral decision-making processes, and also expansion. These are 3 very important things towards the support and the growth of SMEs. And time commitment, as you know, many women out here, they're still asked to really contribute in a dual role. Not only women at home, but also women at work. And when you assume that these roles are something that someone can handle well, actually giving the support is not just saying, hey, in Indonesian, right? Ayo semangat, kamu pasti bisa. No, that's not just that, but it's actually creating opportunities and means. So let's say you're working. You want to go towards financial independence. And out of that, what you can get is actually, maybe I can hire someone to help me. Then by that, you're creating an expansion. You're creating opportunity for other people to work. And out of that, not only are they building their business, but they're also building other opportunities for other women to actually support them. So collateral decision-making process, majority or 65% of loans in Indonesia are actually based on, lateral assets, which are under, we don't really have a prenup, right? Like a prenup, it's taboo. It's a discussion that we don't have a lot in Indonesia. So a lot of our assets when we get married are under one head. We go all under the husband. And that's something that sometimes is a challenge because not all husbands will actually support aku mau dong, if we're speaking in Indonesia, right? Aku mau dong pinjam sesuatu. I want to borrow this because of this. If the husband sees it as unfit, then it's not going to happen, right? And after that, of course, expansion, which brings us to the next part. A lot of these women don't know what they don't know. So it's not just a matter of not understanding the business realm, but it's actually not understanding the support that governmental issues have already been giving, financial support that have been set aside for them, or even the communities and focuses that can help them push themselves even forward. So the keyword is accessibility. And what comes to mind when we talk about accessibility? It's a whole holistic bubble. It's not just, mentorship, infrastructure, governmental support, but it's all of this. And basically, accessibility is the ability to access. You can reach it, you can touch it, you can see it, you know about it. Moving out of accessibility, one of the biggest challenges at this moment is actually developing this growth mindset. So here's the thing, right? We're creating all of this digitization. We're getting women able to actually access digitally. We're getting women able to be able to understand, if I can't go on the internet, this is my alternative. I can go, let's say, kakanwil. I can actually go to them. I can ask to them. I can know more about it. But the thing is, they stop there. And the reason why is because growth mindsets are privileges. Sometimes when we talk about growth, we forget that building a sense of self is outside of survival mode. And that, for a majority of women, is still the mindset. Like, we work because we need to live. It's not even thinking about how can we scale this business. It's, okay, what am I eating tomorrow? What should I have on the table? What will I give to my child and my husband, right? So growth mindsets are privileges. And this is a word that we tend to skitter around about. Because we've seen amazing examples, right? Providing work for rural craftsmen. If I'm allowed to actually mention a few, right? We know for the private sector, we have we have Marta Tilaar, we have Dua Anyam, we have Sukacita. We have all of these brands that are actually both very large and very small, but they have been supporting women. They start by providing them, here are your jobs. You can do this work. But outside of that, they actually provide growth into the mindset of becoming an entrepreneur so that they can go out and reach out and provide. And government has actually provided that too. We have been having many programs out there that provide them boot camps. But the thing is, that's as much as they think. They get the knowledge, but they don't get the next step. Which is actually showcasing real-life role models. And the reason why I want to highlight this is because we tell people to follow their dreams, but you can only dream of what you can imagine. And the reason, right, why this is because if you were born in a rural area, you're underprivileged, the people that you see are the people around you. Para ibu-ibu. You see the mothers, you see the ladies, you see your children. Even if you see the internet, you see, Nagita Slavina. You see Shahrini, and they're actually amazing businesswomen, right? But the thing is, it's not relevant. They see them as, it's amazing. They have a lot of money, they're still working, I would love to do that. But then again, they never face the struggle that these women might be facing. So what you want to really do is actually showcase people that have been in their shoes, specifically. When we're talking about an example, it's like if you have a scholarship program, you have these quote-unquote success stories, right? And you usually showcase them a lot. And this is what we want to multiply. This is what we want to expose. We want to show women in the industry that are real-life implementers and also real-life women. Because again, when they see Shahrini, they're like, glamorous, badai, but the thing is, that's all they see. And we want to show something they can relate to. So my question was, even if we look at this, who was your childhood role model? And who's your role model now? Very two different things. I would probably assume, when you were a child, my role model was my mom. It was my dad. It was my grandfather. Or maybe the president, because, you see the president on TV, ooh, very cool, many photos, right? But when you're talking nowadays, who are your role models? As you grow, as you mature, this role model and this understanding changes. And that's because you're exposed. My question now, are these women exposed to the right people? Right? So it's really hard to see who we can be if we cannot see them. That's back again, it's accessibility. Accessibility is not just hands-on learning, but actually accessibility to the right people. So research shows that the role models have 3 benefits. Role models represent and expand what is possible. Role models inspire women to be more ambitious, and they also demonstrate the mindset and behavior. So just a very quick overview. There was a research that was done, but this was in the US, right? So they had what they called draw a scientist research. What they did there was they had little children, people that are unbiased, anak-anak kecil. These are kids that came up, they were asked to, hey, can you draw a scientist? What does a scientist look for you? And they all drew males. 70% of them drew male scientists. And the reason why is because they've never seen a woman scientist. It wasn't something that was showed to them. It wasn't something that was accessible for them. And even for kids, right, that's something that impacts that much, the motivation and the ability to grow. So here, we want to make sure that accessibility to these role models is something that we can work further on. Actually, collaborating with a lot of the existing programs, I know the government has quite a few programs. These programs can also collaborate with those in the private sector. These can actually collaborate and connect with those in the non-governmental sector. And we know that there have been many, many programs out there that can show you these success stories. So again, we want to make it as accessible for them. So mentorship and last but not least, group accountability. The reason why out of the 3, this would be part of like motivation for women is because when we go alone, what we see is our bubble. But when we go together, when we have women, when we're in a program, we're in a mentorship program, we are in a boot camp, we are in a hands-on implementation program, we actually see people motivated to grow themselves further. We see that we're not alone in the journey. We see that it's actually doable. Because sometimes when you're alone, you feel like, this is it. I can't go any further. This is as much as I can do. Or sometimes, some people actually move back. We have had SMEs come to us and say, hey, we have an order for X thousand. This is more than I can handle. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what to handle it. I don't know who to talk to. I think I'm just going to reject. When people, in the business industry would say, this is your opportunity to grow, right? And we direct them. We help them get connected to the right people in both public and private sectors. So it's discouraging when there's no visible role model, but they can also help cross-motivate. How does IP play a core role? So we're getting into it, right? The reason why I focused a lot on the mindset was when we're talking about sustainability, when we're talking about IP, you need to have the mindset that you want to grow first before you can even touch IP. Because when you don't know if you're going to scale, you don't know what else to do. You don't know what the next step is. You don't know how feasible it is for you to actually do things like this. So IP, and I think we have a few other experts here that will talk about it, is basically this. But all in all, IP is something that can actually help support not only your brand, not only your product, but it helps support you in the long term. It can be, I make a brand. This brand then is actually, resold by other people, and you go through a whole process. There's a lot going through inventions, designs, names, everything. And the core thing that helps you is actually understanding how beneficial IP is. So IP has a total of 7 pillars, but for today, since we're focusing on SMEs, we would really want all industry players to know more about copyright, patent, brand, and industrial design. And the reason why these 4 are actually the core ones that I personally would like to focus on is because for our SMEs, we have many micro industries, right? We have many, many businesses that are very small, they're starting out there, but when you think about it, their business models are amazing. It might be, jual kerupuk, selling fish cakes. But the thing is, it's white labeled, it's nothing, and it's maybe a family recipe, right? And it tastes different than others. So that's something that you can actually put into your own brand. You can brand it, you can make it yourself, you can make it a whole multi-million industry, right? Like, aku jadi juragan, gitu kalau bahasa Indonesianya, right? But the thing is, a lot of these small industry players, they move back because one, they don't know how to implement. way back then, we had consultants, or like we had to actually use consultants to process IP. Nowadays, you can actually do it individually. But the thing is literacy, right? Not everybody knows how to do it. Not everybody understands the steps. And that is what we would love to make sure people are actually able to go through. If we look here, supporting the literacy of IP and awareness across nationwide SMEs, especially grassroots women or the underprivileged, is not just moving them towards IP, but it's the awareness and accessibility to information. So if we're talking about, digitization, it's on the internet. Yes, we're in Jakarta, we're in Bali, it's on the internet. We're in other parts of the nation, it's not there. It takes us 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just load the web, right? So we do want to actually help them and share with them that, bisa lo ke Kanwil, you can actually go to governmental places and to the officers, and you can discuss with them. They will bring you through the way. And the thing is, not everyone knows that. So the question is, are we targeting the right people, or are we targeting the right people in the community? Because again, these are communities. These are bondong-bondong ibu-ibu, gitu ya, if you're talking about Indonesian. These are a group of ladies. These are a group of women all across the nation. They usually already have people that they go to ask questions. If we can actually tap into those people, there's a chance for actually increasing, just at the very least, increasing the understanding. Then understanding the benefits, of course, comes in with that. And then comes in the governmental support. We know that actually there is financial aid. You know, putting in IP, 500,000 UKM. It's what, for 10 years? 50,000. 50,000, what, a year? That's actually something that a lot of people don't know. People say, IP mahal, very expensive. I can't do it. And they say that because they don't know, right? And they don't know that actually there are programs that can provide it for free. So that's what we really want to communicate. And the way to communicate it, again, that is one of our biggest challenges. Karena nggak bisa kita ngobrol dengan ibu-ibu, using the English that I was doing right here, right? So it's going to be very hard to communicate with them. We need to talk to them where they are. We need to be with them. We need to understand them. And definitely that's a very large problem. That's a very large thing to do. But again, Indonesia is very wide. We have a lot of people. We have many ways to do that. And awareness of support. So again, just highlighting the last part, programs, financial aid, and pro bono consultants. Pro bono consultants, last but not least, to wrap it up, is one of the best ways for us to actually help. And the reason why, again, is the literacy. You assume people would know because they're given a guide. No. We go to the village, we see them, and we're asking, hey, mana kartu bansosnya? They put it all in like one room with one person actually holding out. They have no idea how to use it. What do you think they know about IP, right? It's going to be harder. So having the pro bono consultants, people that actually understand and are able to provide this knowledge and help them through the process, is something that can increase this much quicker than what we were initially trying to target. Because out of the mindset, out of the mentoring, out of the role model, it's just the comprehension. It's not even literacy. Because reading is one part, comprehending is another. And that is a very big challenge that we have in Indonesia. So all in all, empowering women, just to wrap it all up, right, consists of 3 things. So the first, again, is actually creating that accessibility. And the second is actually creating accessibility towards role models, or people that they can actually see as relevant. And the third is increasing the understanding, or holding accountability and cross-motivation. And why IP can help them is because everyone starts small. But when we're talking about how SMEs have been impacting the economy, how SMEs have been growing in the last 2-3 years, and the focus of what Indonesia themselves have already been implementing, have already been highlighting, it's more than a valid investment for us to actually help them understand and utilize IP for the greater of their good. My name is Nadira Aurelia, and that is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Nadira. Please give an applause to Nadira. I think Nadira gave us a very bright inspiration about how the woman can give the impact to the creative economy and also the economic development. Right, and Nadira, based on your experience, what are the government policy needed to boost the woman empowerment and its impact to the creative economy? Maybe you have an experience about that.
Yes. So, quick disclaimer, I'm not going to talk specifically on policies because that's going to be a whole nother discussion and we have experts for that. But from my end, as someone who's actually helping a lot of women in the industry, what would be helpful and what is existing? So I do have a friend who's actually, in Parecraft. She's been telling us all of these amazing programs that have been implemented, these amazing programs, and she right now is in Antete, right? She is in the West, and she's already focusing there. And the fact that they're starting small, right? They started with the same focus that I mentioned. They started with, let's give them opportunities to work, show them that they have their self-sense of worth. We don't talk further into like education, understanding. No, we give them that taste of work first. So at the very least, they know, I'm able to do this. This is something that I can do. The thing is, with Indonesia, our nation is very wide. It's very diverse. We can't really use a one-size-fits-all kind of answer, right? So the thing is, actually having that categorization and understanding, or at least if we're not directly going into the grassroots, we're not directly going into the underprivileged, but we're talking about the instances, we're talking about the PICs, we're talking about the representatives that are actually helping from both private and public, because I know that there's a lot going on even in the private sector, right? If we can actually get the same understanding, get the same implementation, get the same kind of focus first, that's the first step. Because even when I talk to a lot of friends, they were talking about, creative economy. They don't even realize that, SMEs are actually part of the creative economy. They just see, it's a business. Business aja. They don't know it's actually, people are trying to help them convert, they're helping them scale, they're helping them to grow. There's not a lot of this there, right? That's the first thing. So having people who are relevant towards them, getting sure to really invite the right people to talk to them and show them and share them, this is actually the first step. Because people like me, we can talk so far. Like we can talk when there may be 2-3 steps forward. They're already in a mindset where, I want to grow. I know this is what I can do. This is where I want to move. But when we're talking about the very basic guideline, the very basic mindset, your best bet is to get people who are from where they are, who are people who are relevant to them, people that can be your success stories, right? And the thing is, we don't have visibility on that. That's our problem now. If we can figure out a way to actually really own it, right? Karena selama ini, like after all this time, people have been saying, this is a very good role model. This is a very good role model. This is a very good role model. And we know, but they don't know because they're confused. Like, this person is successful and then what, right? And for them, not seeing someone who's eye to eye, who's apple to apple, who's on par with them, it doesn't change the mindset, which is one of the biggest problems that we have at this moment. Because in terms of like the creativity, the diversity in the industries that they're actually creating these SMEs, it's amazing. They have everything from traditional creation up until, homemade, let's say, homemade scarves, right? And then they have everything basically in this industry. And because we have such a diverse option to actually move them forward, and we know that people are actually looking towards them, we need to share with them how they can scale. Because they're going to stay that small. They're going to keep going that small because they feel that it's enough. For them, it's comfort. It's comfortable. And we don't have the reason. Why should we scale? I have enough money for me to buy food. I have enough money for me to buy printilan, small things, right? What else am I looking for? I'm living the good life. But what we want to see here is not them thinking for themselves, right? We're thinking on a larger scale about them impacting other women, about them showing other women that this is doable, that this is feasible, that this is visible. And we want them to be able to embrace that mindset. So rather than policies aside, the first step would actually having this visibility on how we do it, on how we create it. Many organizations out there, many private sectors that are willing to help. And definitely, I know many are also working with the government. So this is something that, we would love to see more push towards, because everything at this moment is not exactly centralized. So everyone's working on themselves, which is fine because it works so far. But if we want to move it on a larger scale, we do want to actually have people in the same realm, in the same sector, in the same focus, moving forward together rather than on themselves.
Right, thank you very much, Nadira. Okay, very cool explanations, and you also mentioned some of the name like Duanyam, Jafara, etc. So it's really inspiring how the woman giving the impact. Okay, next to the next speakers, Dina Deliana. Okay, Dina Deliana is a lecturer in SBM ITB and also the head of GCINC, the Global Center of Excellence and International Cooperation in the Creative Economy. She also has a lot of experience in a startup ecosystem. Okay, please, Dina, to present your presentations.
Okay, thank you so much. Pak. Yes, so allow me to stand up to just explain presentation. Okay, I think thank you, Mbak Nadira. You just opened my mind, and I kindly like to change a bit about the model, yeah, that I will explain later, yeah. But actually, if we talk about women empowerment, particularly in IP, and here, yeah, the committee asked me to talk more about how digitalizations can actually help, yeah, women to create more IP product, etc. So that's what I'm going to explain a bit. So before we talk more about IP, many of not only women but actually creative players, why they are not into IP registration, etc. Because they don't know the benefit of the IP itself. Yeah. Because I probably will more explain about data, yeah, based on research. Yeah. Some benefit of IPs, yeah. For example, like there's a positive relationship, yeah, if we actually utilize IP to business performance, help you to export the products, yeah, help you to actually being more competitive compared to the competitors, yeah. That's actually some benefits of IPs, and more of creative players, not only creative players, actually business players, they not actually seen, yeah, these opportunities to become their accelerators, yeah, to reach global market, wider market, and more increasing business performance. And if we talk more about women, yeah, which already explained by Mbak Nadira, yeah, most of the women entrepreneurs, yeah, we know that there are so many women entrepreneurs in Indonesia, but if talk about numbers, yeah, still lower compared to developed countries. And 60% of the women are actually there forced to do the business because of the necessity based, and they are not they're not having like support, yeah, from their family to actually doing the business. That's what happened in Indonesia. And if we talk about IP's problems, yeah, it's not only hanging around the women entrepreneurs, but also the creative players. I try to gather some information about what actually the problems, yeah, in creative players in Indonesia regarding IPs. First, about limited information, of course, yeah. So it's not only about the literacy, but also how to inspire them that the IPs will get more benefits, yeah, to their business. About the next about complicated of the complication of the process, yeah. Although we already have like hak cipta, yeah, and many things, but still people in some rural area they not find any easiness, yeah. And although in some areas like in Bandung, for example, the place that I live, yeah, some offices, yeah, they offer like IP service, but this information haven't spread yet, yeah, to the creative players. So more about informations and requirement, yeah, and also the expensive fee, yeah, of registering IP. This is according to the data, yeah, and also the legal protections. How if my IP being violated? So it's not clear yet, yeah. So what's next if my IP being violated, yeah? Unless if you are like Baimong, yeah, and you get help from the netizen, yeah. So probably it's not becoming a real big problem, say, if your IP being violated. And then the lack of law enforcement also, yeah, and also the legal protection of IP in Indonesia applies territorially. So this is actually happens with one of the startups, yeah, in my incubators, that when they register the IP in Indonesia, it's not automatically registered also in the international countries, yeah, in other countries. So they need to reapply it again, yeah, in Malaysia, for example, Singapore, etc. So it took a lot of money actually, yeah, more than 50 million rupiah, yeah. And intellectual property, yeah, is crime by offense. So if nobody actually, tell you that you are violating the IP, so nothing happened. Yeah, so that's why that more of the creative players, they think that no need, yeah, for them to actually register their IP, yeah, and etc. So in moment entrepreneurs, yeah, when we talk about IP, like I mentioned before, that the IP product actually quite broad, yeah, from trademarks, yeah, patents, copyright, etc. Yeah, but we mostly connect, yeah, the IP with the innovative capabilities, yeah, because yeah, trademarks only just about the brand, yeah, but we are something which is more productive, yeah, more into like IP products. It requires some innovation capabilities, yeah, for the entrepreneurs of doing so, yeah. So based on the data, why they not into IP, yeah, why women entrepreneurs not into IP, because they don't have any access, yeah, to supportive social groups needs to be to help them, yeah, to actually give some understanding about the IP benefits, give some encouragement to make some innovations, yeah, regarding the products which can be registered as IPs, yeah. And about the skill and support, yeah, in terms of business success, yeah, like mentioned by previous speakers, yeah, mentors, yeah, they need mentors, they need to be inspired, yeah, particularly for women, they need some role model to show them that it is actually possible to do the business at the same time you take care of the family, yeah. And also about low social capital for women creators particularly, yeah. So it is still scattered, yeah. So I try to find like in particular reports from some associations like AINAKI, like AGI, etc. They are rarely mentioned about women creators. So if you try to search woman words, yeah, in the reports, so any kind of creative reports from associations, they rarely mention about how many women creators, players in their reports. None of them. Yeah, just try to. So women has not been their focus, yeah, on the development, yeah, particularly in the associations, which is becoming the more focus social capital, yeah, for at least for the creators. So when we talk about intellectual property to women SME, sometimes it feels like very long connections, yeah. But actually, if we talk about IP, there are many IP products. How to make it more valuable? Probably we should connect it with some innovation capability. Yeah. So that's what Kaufman said. So that's why I try to figure out actually what is the barriers of innovation, yeah, in women entrepreneur. So first, according to some research, yeah, conducted by previous researchers, lack of funds for innovation and developing new products. So lack of funds sometimes becomes so, yeah, like a very, we heard it like more often, yeah, but in terms of innovations, there's no specialized fund, yeah, focusing on the R&D and innovations, yeah, for women entrepreneur. And in terms of skills, yeah, it's not only some business skills, but also technical skills. Yeah, if you see, if you think about creations and different kind of IP products, it requires special skills. For example, like if you're in a game industry, if you are in an animation industry, if you want to create a product, yeah, you have to have special skill to be able to do that. And sometimes they get innovation, but it is really easy to copy. Yeah, so they don't think that it is really beneficial if they actually register it in the department, yeah. and lack of networking with the research institutions. So actually last night I just have dinner with Duanyam, friends from Duanyam and Tarajo Melo. What actually their complaints and problems actually they don't have any access to, for example, to some of the raw materials. And I actually work closely with BRIN as well, and I know that there are many research actually conducting this kind of raw material explorations. So the point is there's no connection. They don't know how to access BRIN actually. While BRIN, they have many of research regarding so-called materials for textiles, etc. But they say, how to access that? I don't know. If we search from the websites, it's so like, hard to get, kind of things. So that's actually one of the problem. The research already there, but there's no, they're not actually open any gate, to the smaller entrepreneurs. And also, about the age, locations, type, size of the business also become problems, So not every SMEs can become like Duanyam. Not every SMEs can become like Tarajo Melo because they are equipped, they have more access, more knowledge, So how to make every small SMEs to become like them? So that's actually one of the things that we should think, Okay, so if we back to kind of a digitalization, this is actually based on data that we researched, GSING research back into 2020 about digital penetration. So if we see this, most of the SMEs, it is not only women, but also all of the creative SMEs, they already utilize digitalization, but mostly on the distributions, consumption, and marketing part, But they haven't yet utilized digitalization on the productions, creations, and also fulfillment kind of things. So if we try to look at how digitalization can actually help them, probably we can help them to more adopt this technology into productions, creations, and many more. And if we say that, is there any support from the government? So I may say that there are a lot of support from the government. Pak Robinson actually held a really good work since Backcraft, and I cannot mention more. This is one of the works from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They held these events. Focusing on promoting women IPs. And they do matchmaking. They do virtual exhibitions, and they do competitions for women IPs. So I think it's one of the good move, So according to all of these, according to all of the data that I got, from research, I try to make this so-called models how to actually support women IP creators, So if we can see here, there's an IP value chain, on the center, which after Mbak Nadia presentation, I'd like to add one variables, after the IP utilization. It's actually IP advocacy. IP advocacy, I guess it's one of the things that really important, So someone who will always there, to be asked, to guide along the way. So for this model, the target are actually two sides, from the demand and from the supplies. The first side is actually the women creative actors. So we are more focusing on the IP management, IP commercialization. And the second part is mostly to the users and consumers, because they need to have this knowledge. They need to understand the IP is not only the product. It's actually one of the works, that need to be appreciated. So the two sides of this need to be literate, not only the creators, but also the users and the consumers. So on the centers, we see this is the IP process. So this is what actually the government can do, but not only government. All of the IP creators, they not only need to create, but also they need to literate the users and customers, and users and consumers. For example, here they start they can start to do some IP literations through modern media, whatever media suitable for the current customers. If the current customers, they use TikTok, so you should use TikTok to literate them, yeah. If they are more convenient to, for example, like magazine, you just pick any kind of magazine suitable for your user group. So you need to adapt, yeah, to the certain group of your user and customers. So in terms of IP literacy. IP applications, what can be done, yeah, for example, like making some IP system improvement, mass IP registration, probably Pak Robinson already done that before, yeah, and also help them in terms of funding. IP commercialization, this is one of the thing, yeah. So most of the IP registrations, they are more focusing on the registrations, but not into commercializations. For examples, like yesterday, yeah, in the FCE panel, yeah, a person from YouTube, yeah, they actually told that the YouTube, they have some good data, yeah, coming from the creators. So they have all of sheet of informations about how many they get, yeah, from the video, etc., etc. So this is one of the thing that we should have, yeah, some tools to help monitors, yeah, the commercialization of the IP. So after the IP being commercialized, so the journey, yeah, need to be monitored, yeah. So for examples, like one of the things, like if you know NFT, yeah, NFT they get, if you publish your NFT, you can still have royalties even after the sixth, yeah, buyers. This is one of the things that blockchain can help actually to do monitor where the money goes, yeah, in terms of royalties, etc. So IP commercialization actually one of the big tasks, yeah, for Indonesian IP ecosystem. And then after that, protections, of course, yeah, the protections in terms of how to assess, yeah, how to make sure the law enforcement, how to make sure that there's some reporting system if there's some IP violations. And the next about IP utilizations as fiduciary object, although, yeah, it's still long way to go, yeah. How to make sure that it is has the real value of it, how to hedge the risk, yeah, of the IP as a fiduciary object. And the last about the IP advocacy, yeah, which I forgot to mention here. So what can we interfere, yeah, in terms of this IP supply chain, yeah. From supply side, this is more into the talent, yeah, the creators. We can do intervention through three things, yeah, from people, infrastructures, and materials, yeah. So if we talk about digitalizations, are more into infrastructures, yeah, from providing them with software, hardware for creations, which are already there, yeah, and it is make even creator more easier to make products, to make creations, yeah. We should let them to know, yeah, how to use that, give them access to use that, etc. Yeah. And also platform for international expert pool, yeah, how to register my IP in Vietnam, for example. Yeah, it's really hard to find at least a lawyer, yeah, which can help us to register our IPs like international. It is really hard, except like, yeah, we know Pak Ari Juliano, only one person lah in Indonesia, yeah, which can help us. And from the demand side intervention, this is more into the market, yeah. We know the people, infrastructure, and materials. And yeah, marketplace for IP products, I think it's really important. Also will help the IP utilization as a fiduciary object. So we know the value of the product, yeah, we'll know yeah, the ups and downs, yeah, of the IP product. So yeah, people from the bank, people from the financial corporations, yeah, will know, yeah, the value of the object if there's a marketplace. For example, we can probably see like OpenSea, yeah, they help us with the price of the object like over time, yeah, the ups and downs. So it will at least help us to do some IP valuations. Yeah, if we have like OpenSea for other IP objects, yeah, it would be helpful, yeah, for to make like IP fiduciary object visible. And I know that all of these attempts cannot be done by government alone. So they need to have collaborators. So I try to map out who are actually become the collaborators of doing all of this effort. Coming from university, of course, as a supply side, and then local government, because they have their own IP center, become their own KPI as well, and creative organizations, IP agents, women creators associations, big players, to give them success stories and give some examples on how to make their product become more commercialized. Publishers, backward and forward linkage, industries would help as well, and also associations and all of these ministries. And speaking of the tools, digitalization tools, now we know that there are many tools which can help us. For example, like this, if we talk about creators, women creators, male creators, it is really easy for them now to create something. There are many tools available to help them, like do sourcing, producing, composing, make graphic, audio, video, etc. So all we do just not creating another tools, but how to give them access to all of these tools, for example. If you are more into game industry or NFT ecosystem, they are already there, already complete. But don't know whether they know, that you don't have to make everything from scratch nowadays, There are already tools that can help you to make it even more faster, and even more creative way, so you can save time to do something else. So it is one of the solutions to let them know that there are many tools that can help you. But actually, the biggest problem is not what we are talking about here. But the next question would be, if we talk about IPs and digitalizations. First, how to manage new types of IPs like NFT. We know NFT, but there are probably another types of IP, for example, like there are already music made from AI. How to claim the IP? Who will be the IP owners? So such data, software, and related IP rights. How to manage all of these things? So and we know that these AI things are developing. The thing is, do we have any regulations to regulate the IP product coming from this AI? And how to design new IP-based business models when technologies and industries converge. So it's another thing, It's not only creating merchandise, those, conventional one, But we need to think about when there's new technology, means that we need new business models to make sure we can commercialize and utilize this content, to become more beneficial to the creators. It is also the homework. How to manage new sources of tension between collaborators and competitors, because if we collaborate to make an IP, the headache would be who will own the biggest percentage of the IP ownership. Sometimes it's also become a headache. And how disruptive technologies such as like IoT, mobile internet, automation of knowledge work, cloud technology, advanced robotic affect IP management. Can we utilize it? For example, like blockchain, if there's a case, like OpenSea or NFT, can we use it for our traditional IP product, to make sure that it is stored in some safe place and it is evaluated by the community, for example, and it is secured. Do we need new strategy to overcome this new technology to help us manage the IP, particularly for the next technology coming ahead, And besides of data volume and velocity, data variety, is the most important contributors adding quality content to so-called big data. And how to manage this if it's associated with the IPs. Big data, if it's only the data is not analyzed, it's only becoming a junk of data. But how to make sure that it can contribute to the IP creation, also IP management. So it particularly, this is the next question that need to be think about, because we are actually not only try to increase the literations of the current SMEs and traditional business, but also we are racing with the futures, which can becoming the next headache, the next technology, how to manage it, and what is affecting the IPs industries, and how to make the regulations, so it's not too late to make the regulations, how to protect the creators from this technology. For example, like AI, they can easily copy our work in a minute. How to make sure that it is not happening to our creators. So that's actually the next headache that need to be think about. At the same time, you have to literate these traditional SMEs. So I think that's all from me. Thank you for the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dina. Please give an applause. Right, it's very interesting what Dina mentioned about the intellectual properties. I also found a website that we can create the visual things. I think it's found by one of the NASA researchers. So by the imagination, we can create the pictures or the visuals. My question, Dina, about how the use of IP and how it can give a beneficial to the woman creativity and innovations. You have a statement, for example, from the brain that there are some of the research that can be used for the small and medium enterprise. The question is, when they use the research, also how to fund the intellectual properties for the small and medium enterprise. In other side, you also mentioned about some of the women, they lack of the capital, they lack of knowledge, literacy to get the IP. Any thoughts about that, Dina?
Yeah, well, actually, if we talk about IP, since there are many type of IPs, we should make clear, which one should we focus on, For example, like if we talk about SME, so most likely they are more into trademark, just protecting their brand, But there are actually other type of IPs which has more value, and they can be commercialized. So what I mentioned here in my presentation are more into the IP that can be commercialized. For example, like they are creating like videos, like content and everything, while they can actually do their work at home, doing other jobs, And in terms of the funding, are more into those traditional SMEs, women in SMEs. They don't know, how to innovate the product, so they only register their brand. That's only the IP that they can get. And in terms of fund, to register the trademark, I don't know how much is that now. But there's so many. Subsidiary coming from the government for 100,000 rupiah. But it seems like very cheap for us, but for people in the rural area probably it's kind of expensive. But the second thing about the creators, if we talk about women creators, like there are many women in YouTube, TikTok. We cannot underestimate them, and we should think that they are actually part of the creative economy. I don't know where should we put it actually, whether they are in the TV, radio, animation, etc. But the creators economy actually it's not emerging, it's actually growing. And there's some potential and opportunity for the woman, which actually they have some challenges to do the conventional business, because they need to spare their time for the family. But if they move into creator economy, they can make content, they can get money, and they make sure that the content is protected, and those things that I be more interested to, because the economic potential are actually very huge, with really less effort. So why don't we focus on that? While the intervention from the government, actually it is more easier. Because if we talk about women creators, they are mostly young, and it is easy to tap in, and they are more digital savvy, tech savvy. So it is easier for us to reach them through any kind of medias, and we don't need to start from scratch, but what we do need is to accelerate them. So the effort will be very minimal, but the impact will be higher compared to if you are focusing on these SMEs kind of things, yeah, because there are so many complications, yeah. It's not only about the business, yeah, but also sometimes they have no inspirations to make their business bigger because they have so this and that, yeah, problems with the family, etc. So probably if I can suggest, yeah, to the government, just pick, yeah, which sectors or which target, yeah, which give us less work but bigger impact, yeah, for example, like these women creators.
Right. Thank you very much, Dina. So it needs a priority for the policy.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. So next we move to the third speakers. Hello, Mr. Bahtiar Hafiz Bandial from Brunei. He is an experienced IP right project manager. He used to work for the EU intellectual properties as an activity coordinators, and now he is a senior officer of the ASEAN Secretariat. Please, Mr. Bahtiar.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. It's really an honor to be here today and to be sharing the panel with our esteemed speakers here today. So previously, I think Dina in her last presentation had talked a little bit about how IP has been used in a number of different sectors. I think she mentioned a lot of the IT sector, the creative sectors, and the gaming sectors. But a lot of my presentation will focus on IP as a tool for rural development within ASEAN. The reason for this being is that within ASEAN, we still have 48% of the population living in rural areas, which comprises of about 300 million people. And within this 300 million people, women in the rural economy are often the most vulnerable to economic change. And so IP as a development tool to help these groups would bring about the most immediate success and the uplifting of the economic cycle for a group in society. Which is why a lot of the work that I've done in the past has concentrated upon the developing economy within ASEAN and how IP can be used as a tool for development for these areas. Okay. So what's the situation now globally, though? So a McKinsey study in 2020 showed that 12 to 18 trillion US dollars could be added to global GDP by narrowing the gender gap. The same study also showed that 29% of companies that are less gender diverse, are 29% less likely to make money. So inequality in the economic workforce is costing everybody money, and the world is essentially excluding a large proportion of the population from potential cultural, social, and economic benefits from excluding women from the workforce. The lost innovations, brands, and ideas are a detriment to society as a whole, and therefore encouraging access to the innovation ecosystem through intellectual property could bring about huge gains to the global economy. So some stats from WIPO, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization and the foremost organization on IP and innovation, shows that only 16.5% of inventors named in international patent applications are women. Furthermore, female researchers are half as likely to obtain a patent for their research in comparison to male colleagues. So these statistics are very alarming. Females don't seem to be granted access to the IP registration system, even when they are contributing directly to research that can obtain a patent. So why does this gap exist? Partly it's because there are more men in STEM fields, which is science, tech, engineering, and mathematics. But the question that we have to ask is, why are there more men in STEM fields in the first place? It certainly is not because that men are inherently better than their female counterparts, whereas in fact the opposite is true, and often women in STEM perform better than their male counterparts on a whole. A study by the Global Gender Gap Report in 2020 showed that sectors which are less diverse are also less innovative. So segregating research and having male-dominated industries leads to lower innovation levels, and although we know all of this gap still exists. So we'll go into some reasons why. So firstly, as mentioned, there are fewer women in STEM fields, and therefore there are less women that are filing patents, as the STEM field is the most patent intensive. Next, prejudice and misconceptions still remain concerning women and their role in society. Third, women often may be less risk tolerant, I think, which is something that Nadira mentioned, due to the prejudiced roles that they have been given in society. IP and innovation doesn't always come with instant financial reward as a regular job would, and therefore women are often thinking about where is the next meal coming from my family, how can I support them, rather than thinking about their own careers and their own innovative takings. So also we have a lack of policy making that promotes innovation and creativity among women. And finally, we have a lack of flexible working arrangements that would enable women to contribute to innovative solutions effectively. So the workplace generally does not cater to the needs of women innovators, and this is something that needs to change. So these discussions and reasons were extracted from a discussion on gender and innovation at the World Intellectual Property Organization. So how do these reasons translate to ASEAN, the region which I do a lot of my work in? So the answers that we have here were obtained from the ASEAN magazine on gender, which shows some very telling statistics. So for reason number one, 4% of women in ASEAN have no formal education compared to 3% of men, which is still a sign of a gendered education gap, despite the fact that women generally fare better in formalized education when compared to their male counterparts. For reason number two, about prejudice and misconception of the role of women. Unfortunately, in ASEAN, this prejudice is still very strong. 16% of women marry before the age of 18 in ASEAN, and this limits their opportunity and to become innovators and even to enter the innovative workforce due to this misguided role in society. With regards to risk tolerance, we see that in ASEAN, men are staggeringly more likely to be employed in ASEAN compared to women, 11.5 times more likely. Now, the idea of risk tolerance is linked to the fact that in ASEAN, women are seen as having to take care of their families, and the general ethos is that women should think about what is best for the family. So they're not able to take on the risk to become innovators. So number four, with regards to a lack of gendered policymaking, we can see that in ASEAN, only 20% of ASEAN parliament members are women. So men in general are the ones who are making policies for women, and this does not go very well together, and women should be equally represented in all sectors and ministries. And number five, lack of a work culture that caters to the need of women innovators. We can see that on the screen is a very sad fact that only 33% of maternity cash benefits in ASEAN reached women in 2019. A lack of benefits for mothers will certainly hinder any woman in the innovation cycle, and even in the workplace. So there's a whole nother conversation that needs to be had about how can we create an innovation ecosystem that allows for women to reach their creative potential. So what can be done on a policy-making basis to empower inspired women? So we have 5 suggestions on the board. Increase awareness raising. It's always important in terms of education. Promoting a gender balance in decision-making bodies on IP and innovation within the government and SME bodies. More women in parliament making more decisions for women. Increasing female mentors to provide guidance and leadership. Increasing funding for women, particularly in rural communities. As I mentioned, 48% of ASEAN still lives in the rural areas, and women in rural areas in ASEAN are the most economically vulnerable. And number 5, to ensure that national and regional policies are in place to support equal gender participation. So I didn't spend too much time on this slide on purpose, as there's no real significant effect of these words on the screen right now. They are just suggestions. Yes, I think. Sorry, yeah, I didn't spend too much time on these slides on purpose, as they're just sort of words on a piece of paper, but the real import is in practice. I think Nadira also mentioned in her previous presentation that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. So next, I'd like to go about by combining the 5 things that we have on the screen and how they can work in real-life practice. So one example that I like to use, which ties in the 5 previous suggestions perfectly, is the example of Lampun silk in Thailand. So how can IP and innovation policies used to empower inspired women? So hand-woven silk brocade is a cultural heritage in Lampun, Thailand. The weaving technique has been passed down for generations, and each silk produced is unique and takes a great deal of time to produce. However, the economic benefit of this silk was not maximized. Other areas in Thailand could pass off the silk as Lampun silk, and only a very skilled person was able to tell the difference at first sight. So what was done? The rural government in Lampun, led by Ms. Nichada, the permanent secretary for the area of Lampun, set upon a plan to help these weavers. So firstly, they pushed for geographical indication for Lampun silk. So this benefit was not only protecting the product from infringers, but GI protection also ensures that weavers must adhere to a set of standards, thus ensuring a higher quality of products. So geographical indications are another form of IP protection that basically they authenticate a product to a certain area. So in this case, we have silk coming from Lampun. Other cases that we have in Indonesia include Kintamani coffee from Bali, as well as Ahmed salt. So GI protection was the first step here. Next was how could we show that these buyers, that the silk that they were buying is special? So Ms. Nichada also had a plan for this. The provincial government implemented QR code functionality for each sold piece of cloth. So when any buyer would buy a piece of cloth, they would scan this QR code, and they would know how long the piece took to create, how many weavers worked on this, and as well as how many years of experience that the weaver had in producing this cloth. So you might also think that a rural weaver in Lampun, Thailand, may not know how to implement these QR codes in their work, and you would be right. So mentorship from the government was very important, and Ms. Nichada sent a team of staff to Lampun to show how the functionality worked and how to help their weavers to integrate themselves, their very traditional products, into the digital space. So now you had the IP protection, and this protection was showed to the buyer, and it showed them that this product was very unique. And so what was the result? The result was a 10 times increase in product price, an upholding of this traditional weaving technique, and the economic revitalization of an area. So it's a very big increase, almost 10 times. So following the success of this initiative, school children were also taught these skills. So not only in weaving, which was mostly taught to the girls in school, but the boys were also taught how to plant the trees, how to make the yarn and dye the threads for this weaving. So a whole circular economy was created from IP protection and empowering female weavers in rural Thailand. So the story of Lampun is a very good example of IP protection, policy making, and the digital economy all coming together to preserve a Thai and ASEAN tradition. An example that needs to be kept in mind and replicated across ASEAN. As ASEAN moves towards the digital economy, we need to ensure that we don't leave behind 320 million people in ASEAN who are living in rural areas, many of them women who are working hard to uphold ASEAN traditions. So what else? What else do we have and what's next? So the example of Lampun Silk is not the only example of IP empowering women-driven enterprises that we have. So from the Philippines, we have Sagara Coffee and the Coffee Heritage Company, which is led by a female CEO that is bent on building a successful coffee brand focused around female producers and creating an environment for their success. So she's had success in using collector trademarks, which is another form of IP, that sets standards around the brand of her product. From Singapore, we have Utrip, which is a financial services company with a female CEO who has promised 50-50 gender balance in what is usually a very male-dominated industry. So women in Asia Pacific are 70% less likely to be in the fintech labor force, and thus it takes concerted efforts from companies such as Utrip to address this gap, and also for them to reap the benefits of a diverse labor force with differing ideas. So what's next? I think if we can take anything from the examples that I've just shared, it's often that there is a good product out there that already exists, and many products that are being created by ASEAN's inspiring women. But it often takes a push, whether it be from an inspired CEO, from somebody in government, for these products to take the next step. IP as well acts as a booster to the trade of products and provides further economic incentive for the producers. So just looking at our borders and where we are today, we have traditional products such as Tenan Ikut Sika from East Nusa Tenggara or Batik Tulis from Yogyakarta. Products that are traditionally created by women that are famed locally, where they could use the benefit of strong IP protection and some intervention to take them to the next level. So finally, my last slide. The picture on the screen is something that I has believed gained some level of fame and infamy across the internet in the internet meme cycle some years ago. And it's meant to exhibit the difference between equality on the left, equity in the middle, and liberty on the right. So here we have the fence that's blocking each person from access, and this is something that we can use for a metaphor for what's being discussed today. So starting from the left, if we were to create equivalent policies for all members in society, we are simply not on even footing. Centuries of history, years of prejudice of the patriarchy, and economic inequalities that have widened the gap between members of society means that this is simply not an effective policy. We need to be able to lift up groups in society who have been repressed in the past for the benefit of society as a whole. So that's where we come to the middle picture. A picture of equity where individuals are given an extra boost in order to have equal access. So one box to lift an individual could be IP as a tool for development, targeting groups in society that need economic lifting. Other boxes to lift groups up could include equitable workforce policies, encouraging women in STEM, funding female inventors to overcome the prejudices that have affected women in our society for years. And finally, we have the end goal, the removal of a fence overall and a society where equal access to rights and opportunities is equivalent and unaffected by the gender gap or any other pre-existing inequalities. So as you can see from the examples that I shared earlier, it takes a number of different boxes that need to be ticked in order to enact real change. But I believe that in the power of IP as a tool for development, especially within ASEAN, where we share 10 countries, hundreds of different cultures, millions of different creatives, and thus limitless opportunities. IP provides the economic incentive for these opportunities, and IP should definitely be encouraged as one of the many policy tools that could be used to empower our inspiring women. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bahtiar Hafiz. I think you have a really interesting presentation. I have a lot of questions for you, but because we have 15 minutes left, so I will let the audience to ask the questions. I'm starting from my right wing, I think. One question from here. The center or the left wing? Is there any question from the audience? Yep. Okay. Please mention your name and your questions, please.
All right. Thank you very much for Mr. Diaz for the opportunity. I'm Putri. My questions is for Miss Dina. So you mentioned earlier that there is only minimal data for that focusing on women creators or IPs focusing on women in digital industry. I would like to ask your point of view, like what is exactly the roots of the problems here? Is it because of the industry, like you mentioned, it is rarely mentioned, women creators is rarely mentioned in like Ainaki or Agi, while we know there's a lot of women creators like Griselda Sastrawinata or Rini Sugianto who works in collaborate in Hollywood movies and international movies. What is the roots of the problems here? Is it because the digital industry, like games, for example, is seen more identical to men, or is it because of the work environment? Thank you very much. That is all my questions.
Thank you very much, Putri, for the questions. You can answer the questions, please.
Yeah. I guess we cannot blame on anyone, in terms of that, We know that according to study as well, sometimes women can work more productive, compared to men. Sorry, about bapak-bapak di sini, Okay, that's actually the data tells so, And in terms of women creators, I guess, we have a lot of examples, but sometimes we need more woman empower woman kind of movement, kind of things, because they work individually, and I don't know, women works probably already address some issues on that, But as we know that, there's no. Sometimes if we say about gender equality, sometimes it's too equal that probably the male, they think that it's no need to give more stage to women, because we're equal. So what? So why should we crown you more? Yeah, for example, like that. So probably that's the problem. Yeah, happening to this kind of equality. So we equal. So why should we? Why should men could give more stage, yeah, to women? But I guess, yeah, the thing is, yeah, probably women are too busy. Yeah, they're creating their work. They do not have time to actually flexing their work, yeah, because they have to spend time not only for working but also do take care of other things, yeah. So I guess it is better if, yeah, there's probably like women works, you can more emphasize on women creators, yeah, or probably there's association particularly for women creators. They are coming from animation, games, or other type of products, yeah, of IPs, yeah, that can be into one associations, yeah. So regardless the industry, but there are a bunch of women creators could be kind of those solutions, yeah. But I guess, yeah, last night also, yeah, I have dinner with a girl from Lentera, yeah. She's actually a woman creators. And she said that she did research, yeah, to make work, and she's actually the CEO as well, yeah. So I guess there's a lot of women creators out there, but they're not really to show up. Yeah, I don't know whether they don't have time, or there's no media, yeah, and yeah, probably the association also not giving any stage for them because they think we are equal. Why should we? So yeah, I guess probably that's the problem. If you would like to give some comments on that,
Please, Nadira.
Yes, so Putri, thank you for the question. Maybe just a few pointers, I guess, from my end. And definitely number one is actually culture. So with Indonesia, right, we were actually like majority, especially those that, are maybe millennials, baby boomers, right? The Gen Z is a different topic, but many people here were actually born and raised and taught to be not too loud, not too opinionated, not too much, basically. Anything that's over is too much. And, even as there have been many, many women and many male counterparts actually advocating for this, again, it's a mindset, right? It's ingrained within you. So it's not something that change can happen in 1-2 years. It's something that a whole generation actually has to work on, which is why, when I was sharing a bit, we highlighted patriarchy as a culture because it's passed down, right? From generation to generation to generation. And cutting things like that it's definitely not an easy thing. Like, it's not exactly cutting, right? What we want to do is to reframe. We want people to understand, open their understanding, open their thoughts, open their exposure to their mindset. We don't want to reset a generation. We don't want to cut a generation, no. We want to reframe. Because the thing is that we just want to show that, putting yourself out there does not mean you're bossy. Putting yourself out there does not mean you think you're too full of yourself. So tahu nih gue, gitu kan istilahnya kalau kurang formalnya ya. Kayak it's not that. But it's actually, again, you're setting yourself to become a role model. So, maybe what Dina also mentioned, that's something that Woman Works does work on. Like, we take a lot of like the quote unquote underdogs of the industry. We have a lot of women like, they're a communication manager of Twitter. That person is actually from Indonesia. But we don't know. Like, a lot of people don't know her. Nobody's ever heard of her. Gitu. So why isn't she out there, right? That's an example. And the reason why is, yes, and one of the others is actually, we don't feel that we need to showcase. We want to let our work showcase themselves. But then again, who's able to access, who's able to see you if you're not out there, which is why we try to actually help. We give opportunities for women to actually get invited as speakers, get them to actually showcase themselves out there, help them actually rebrand themselves, help them really put themselves in a space where other women can be inspired, other women can be supported, and male counterparts can actually understand that, again, if it's equal, they want to see if they're on par. They want to see that level, right? And without them being out there, you can't see that. Like, people can't see. Orang mau bilang, you see a male, you'll be like, okay, sama-sama gamer. We're the same. Then, is she better than me? She might be. You don't know. That's exactly it, right? So, but that's one of the main reasons. So it's very ingrained with our culture. And, cultural change takes a lot of time to implement. But yeah.
Thank you very much, Nadira. Okay, another question from the audience, maybe? Yes, please, Mbak. Please mention your name and the question.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz, for the opportunity. My name is Natasha, and I have a question for Mrs. Nadira. My question is, you mentioned how high women's contribution on SMEs in Indonesia. Do you think that it is something to be proud of as a woman, or is it the cause of the patriarchal culture itself? Because maybe we all know that most people value more someone who works at the office and stable jobs, and it is because the lack of accessibility for women. Because people not very proud of when you have small business than stable jobs. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Very interesting question from the woman. Okay, please, Nadira.
Yes, Natasha, thank you very much for the question. And please, other panelists or speakers, feel free to add on. But I think for my end, right, and this is my personal point of view, again, just want to disclaim that out there. For me, it's more of actually dividing between having that sense of pride in how SMEs have come to grow and actually seeing the accessibility of the jobs on the other hand. So to answer your first question, yes. No matter what the situation is, there should be a sense of actually pride in seeing people being actively able to approach, actively being able to set their businesses, actively being able to settle. The next step is actually understanding the reason why, which comes to your question. Like, is this because, again, they need to survive, it's not accessible? That half of the equation, in terms of accessibility towards more professional jobs, towards roles, right? Maybe more in corporatal industries. Again, the industry is very wide. There will always be people that are accessing these jobs and they're not. But the thing is, the goal of the creative industry is to actually create more job opportunities, is to be able to enable more women in the industry itself. So at the end of the day, in terms of accessibility towards more traditional roles, I guess in a way, right? It's definitely something that we want to work on, because I think for me specifically, like my focus is actually helping a lot of middle management women grow to become leaders, right? Like Women Works actually specifically focuses on that. We help more women leaders grow in Indonesia to actually help do the trickle effect, have more women in the industry, have more women hired. But the fact that, people starting from the bottom up are actually going into the mindset of, oh, I have to live better, that opens up their opportunity to actually go into these more traditional roles. Because at the end of the day, sometimes it's not only in terms of like whether or not I can apply for a role, whether or not I am eligible for a role, but it's more of me understanding as a woman, oh, this is actually something that is possible for me. And that mindset itself is something that a lot of people don't have at the moment. So when they start small, they say, hey, turns out I can have a business at home. Turns out the flexibility works for me. Turns out it's something that I can implement, right? They see that more opportunities are opening because of that. So we start small, but we go further. And of course, right, it's also a matter of where you are, I guess, in this pipeline for growth, right? But to answer that, number one, yes, we should be proud that SMEs are they're growing thanks to all of the efforts in Indonesia. What we want to do next is actually look towards the quality of it. Like, why are these SMEs starting? How can we help them grow? What is the best way for us to actually help them recontribute to the society and also economy?
Right, thank you very much, Nadira. Is there any other question from the audience? Okay, if no questions, I will ask to Bahtiar. Maybe you have a lesson learned from the national policy that can support the woman empowerment and the creative economy. Maybe you have an example that you can find.
Okay, so maybe I could just link it back to the previous question as well, as I thought that was very interesting. I think is a very fair point, when you're, say, if you're a rural woman living in Kalimantan, for example, and it's less impressive to have your own business than it would be if you're like someone living in a rural area in Singapore and you say you have your own business. The mindset behind that is very different. So that's why the rural-urban dynamics in ASEAN is very interesting, and I think it's the biggest gap that we could have to regional policy making is really addressing how can we integrate the rural societies into the modern economy and digital economy. I also think that it was very important that Nadira mentioned that it's a lot about the mindset of wanting to have more than just being comfortable. So if I could talk about some national policies, all of the best policies that I've seen in the work that I've done has been from grassroots level sort of schemes and this kind of thing. When you're talking about people in rural areas, top-down doesn't really work, but there still has to be marriage between all of this. If I could use the example that I had on the board, I didn't go into too much detail, but it was a company called Coffee Heritage from the Philippines in the Sagada region, which is a mountainous region in northern Philippines where they produce coffee. So there were a bunch of female coffee producers who were just sort of satisfied with producing the local coffee, selling it in the local market, and it took the intervention of a female CEO who said that this is a product that should be getting more attention. So she intervened. She made a brand out of it, and she only it's quite inspiring, a lot of her work. She mainly would hire distressed women in society who had some perhaps social problems and this kind of thing. So but without her intervention, really bringing up these women and saying that they could be more, they would have been comfortable, with their smaller terms of production and not developing into the big brand that it is today. So I think a lot of it definitely is about having right people with the right mindset to provide mentorship and guidance. From all the most effective policies that I've seen, this has been the one common factor.
Right, thank you very much, Bahtiar. Can you please give an applause to our speakers today? Maybe last question from the audience, or maybe Pak Robin? No? All right. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clara. Thank you for the opportunity. I want to ask Mr. Bahtiar. It's maybe a little bit out of topic, as I really interested when I saw the story of the Lampun silk. Okay, I'm really interested when I saw about how she can make it works in Thailand, because we know Indonesia also have so many geographical indication, and it's already known all across the globe. But we have a problem to distribute the product because of geographical situation that if we're buying the products domestically, it will be very pricey because of the shipping price. And it's really embarrassing and broken-hearted for us Indonesian, how the very good product mostly is imported. And we are, as an Indonesian, mostly don't know about the product. Can you tell us more about how the policy model and the roadmap plan for the Lampun Silk project is creating, and how many organizations is involved, and how the government is involved in this project? Thank you.
Right, thank you. Can you please say again your name?
Clara.
Clara, okay, Clara. Bahtiar, please.
Thank you very much, Clara. So I think in the example of Lampun silk, the reason that it worked was because the way that government was structured in Thailand was that I think the provincial government had a lot to say about having these sort of economic revitalization projects, and so it really wasn't a top-down thing, as I mentioned before. The provincial government is more of a grassroots level project. They are only in charge for the small area of Lampun, but another important thing to state is that it wasn't only that. One point that I missed, which is perhaps important, is that there was also some intervention from the private sector. So Ms. Nichada, the permanent secretary for Lampun, she had to lobby private sector investors as well to invest in Lampun silk. And she basically she got a donation of I think it was 10 acres to initially set up the first site that she had. So a lot of other success cases that we have. There was a big success story from Vietnam and Indonesia in integrating women producers into coffee production. And this was also a marriage of the Indonesian and Vietnamese government with the International Monetary Fund. So a lot of time in ASEAN, especially when we're talking about rural areas, a lot of these provincial governments have a lot to do with not much funding. So it becomes quite a problem, and it becomes about finding the right partners in order to bring these products up. Even I mentioned before, I think the Tenun Ikat Sika, there's a lot of work that's been done with a lot of European organizations on this product. It's been seen as a product which has a lot of potential to reach global markets. But there's still, a lack of funding, a lack of mentorship for the weavers here in order to get a lot of these things to the next stage. I also think you mentioned the shipping costs. One of the great things and one of the difficulties about ASEAN is that I think we have second most number of islands for a region in the world. So shipping becomes very difficult, and integrating a lot of these areas into the economy becomes more difficult. But I think hopefully this is a problem that could be solved. I think we've had a lot of discussions about how we could integrate rural societies into the main economy. So hopefully with the right partnerships, we can definitely bring a lot of these products to the global stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bahtiar. I think we ran out of time, but please. Okay, committee, we still have time. It's all right? Okay, please.
I'm sorry, I have just one question final for, thank you, Mr. Diaz, for the opportunity. For Mr. Bakhtiar, maybe I want to share a little bit about the condition on our country, Indonesia. Like here, IP itself is an advanced thing. Like not much people know about it. Maybe like underprivileged women would be focusing more on how she can get profits from their business rather than the sustainable of their business itself. Like, do you have any like short recommendation, like where do we start on the best approach to the underprivileged woman on educating about the IP rights? Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Maybe besides Bahtiar.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I can start. So thank you very much for the question, Natasha. So I definitely agree. I think when it comes to IP rights, it's hard to see the benefit when you don't have immediate financial reward. So a lot of the recommendations that we have for women in rural areas is to create collectives. For example, in Brunei, we have what's called the One Village, One Kampong product. So rather than individual producers, farmers, producing and selling separately, when they pull together the resources and are able to create a product linked to a locality. So for example, Kintamani coffee here in Bali. This is not just one producer selling this one product. It's a number of different producers who are just selling under the brand of Kintamani. So the IP protection there is pretty much shared. So the costs are shared. But the benefits are also had by all. So it's the importance of collaboration. Again, I have to stress the importance of mentorship and guidance. A lot of the geographical indications in Indonesia have been registered with the help of the government. The organization here is DGIP, the Director General for Intellectual Property. So it's also about getting in touch with the people in government. I think Natasha also mentioned that a lot of these people don't know that you can just go to the government, you can have internet access there, you can ask about different things that can be done. But it also takes people to inform people in these areas about, just being willing to go out there and speak. It's about changing their mindset as well, of asking for help. I think in a lot of the ASEAN cultures, asking for help is still a taboo in a lot of ways. It's a lot more about independence and, keeping your struggle to yourself. So I think that's also a mindset thing that we have to change. I don't know if any the other speakers would like to contribute to that.
Okay, besides adding the comment, maybe you can also give us your closing statement about today's topic. Please, Nadira or Dina?
Okay, so probably you want to add what's being stated before, yeah, that one of the example, if we see, about the benefit of IP, yeah, because the creators and entrepreneurs, they do not feel that it is give the direct impact in terms of revenues. Probably one of the community that can be put into examples is the musicians community, yeah. Because in music community we have this literacy, and they give example on how your product can be commercialized, and there's different kind of other product that can be contribute to other revenues, yeah, additional revenues to the main product. So the role of these communities, which share the same needs, yeah, the same industrial, I guess it's really helpful, yeah, for those types of creators or entrepreneur. So first of that, and the second thing is now being the IP creators or IP based entrepreneur, yeah, we no longer can blame, yeah, to the government or other parties, yeah. The thing is you have to manage yourself, you have to equip, yeah, and you are not become only creator but also become your own producer, distributors, makers, marketers, yeah, and you have to find your own market. So to be equipped with those 360 skills, yeah, probably one of the things besides giving some literations about the IP itself is sometimes you need to be equipped with the business knowledge, how to find the right business models, what can be produced, yeah. For example, like I'm creating this one IG for this Tenun Sika, for example, yeah, the geographical indication, and there are many products can be created from those one IG, yeah, for example. Same like the other copyrights, yeah. We created only one, for example, like one pictures or one song or one videos that can result to different kind of products which can give us additional revenues. So those state of mind, yeah, those things. Sometimes we don't find it, yeah, in the traditional entrepreneurs. We don't find it in the creators, and sometimes it being missed, yeah, to one what was so called like curriculum, yeah, or like capacity building, etc. Yeah, because the business model knowledge, yeah, is really important to them to survive and become knowledgeable to the whole value chain of the business. So I guess it's very specific in one industry, etc., and give them knowledge about the IP product can be explored, yeah, to different forms and can give them additional revenues, and to become able to understand the whole business model. I think it's really important for the creators and for the entrepreneurs. So I guess that's also becoming the closing remarks here from my side.
All right, so I'll just go directly into the closing statements because I think the answers have been enough. But all in all, I think I would love to just do a quick thank you for everyone that's here today and for the event itself, because I think a few years back, IP, women, right, growth, all of this were topics that were a bit inaccessible. Like there are efforts towards it, but it was not exactly the main priority. And I would love to just give a big shout out to everyone and thank everyone for having the opportunity to speak here today and also having the opportunity to actually bring a lot of these topics to life. Besides that, I think we should just really take a good look at how far, I guess, we've grown in terms of not just the creative economy, but also the SMEs and also how women empowerment and women growth has been developing in the last few years. And looking at everything all of our speakers have been sharing today, we can definitely see that there is a brighter future that we're moving towards. We just want to have more active people, I guess, in the industry actually tapping into the existing organizations, into the existing ecosystem, and realizing that we're not alone. We're not working on it by ourselves individually, but we can actually access and work together. And having a lot of the suggestions that came from Bakhtiar and also Dina are definitely good next steps to start paving the way for the next 5-10 years. That should be it, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to also echo the thoughts and thanking the organizers for having us here today. And if I could just have some closing last words, it would be really on the importance of collaboration and conversation. The conversations that we have here today are very important, and I think it's very hard you should never underestimate the knock-on effect that these could have. For example, some of the examples that I had on the board earlier today, these were just from a casual conversation in coffee shops, and they turned into thriving organizations, organizations that are really helping to empower women in different areas. So if you could take away one thing from this, is that I think we definitely have to collaborate with a number of different industries, and we need to consider having conversations on a more frequent basis. I think whether it be a coffee at the side of a meeting such as this, or panel discussions such as we've had today, I think all of these contribute to a better society that we could build for all of ourselves. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bahtiar, Nadira, and Dina. We give an applause to our three distinguished speakers today. Thank you very much for Government of Indonesia, Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy for having us here today. We all have the same belief that the intellectual properties are very important to support the creative economy and also the growth of the economy in Indonesia and also around the globe. But not just supporting the economic growth, we need more inclusive policy and strategies. And one of the important thing is to support the women, because they big roles on our economic development, also the big roles on the social contribution and also the economy. I try to highlight a few things, the keywords from our audience, the importance of the collective actions, the collaborations, the importance of the growth mindsets, and we need to work more on the grassroots. We need more inspired women to give more impact, to give more contributions in our social life and also the economy. Thank you very much for your attention today. I'm Dia Satria, and give back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderator. Remind to stay with the speakers because we will take a picture for documentation. Yeah, kindly to stand. Yeah. And I would like to invite Pak Robin to also take a picture with the speakers and moderator. Okay. Baik, terima kasih. Big round of applause once again for all the speakers and also the moderator, Pak Dias. Ibu Nadira, Ibu Dina dan juga Pak Bahtiar. Alright, to all attendees offline and online, kindly to fill attendance list to get the certificate. The barcode will be shown on screen, and there will be coffee souvenir in Expo number 17 for all attendants of IP Talk today. And ladies and gentlemen, we will have short break and we'll start the next session at 1 p.m. local time. Thank you.
This is a lunch that was made of an everyday effort, 6 hours of preparation. If we look back and see, we will realize that there is more behind every local craft. This is not manufactured, but handcrafted in every part. This one has to harvest only to get the finest, a color that can only be achieved by patience and respect for nature. The other has to pick one in 1,000, layering one by one, getting the best from the rest. Some others breathe a new life into traditions, so it can be handed over for future generations. Where this one has to blend ingredients flawlessly for a smell we long for endlessly, and this one might have spent years painting the pattern slow and steady. Here they are. Never get tired of perfecting the craft. For every question we ask, what good it might bring, at the same time, they work tirelessly, reaching for perfection, patiently. Ini bukan masakan siap saji, tapi sepiring makan siang yang dimasak 6 jam menunggu jadi. Jika kita melihat mundur ke belakang, kita akan sadar ada banyak usaha di balik sebuah kriya. Ini bukan hasil pabrikan, tapi buatan tangan, papan demi papan. Ada yang harus memanen dedaunan untuk sebuah warna yang hanya didapat dari kesabaran menghargai alam. Bukan usaha yang instan. Ada yang harus memilih di antara ribuan pilihan atau menyusun ribuan baris dari bahan-bahan yang terbuang. Ada yang mencari bentuk dari tradisi agar budaya tetap bisa diturunkan dari generasi ke generasi. Ada yang meracik rempah helai demi helai demi aroma yang menggugah. Ada yang tak lelah melukis corak dengan tangan yang melambai-lamban. Dan inilah mereka yang tak lelah berproses dan berkarya. Seringkali kita bertanya, apa keunggulannya? Di saat yang sama, mereka bekerja sepenuh hati, mengejar kesempurnaan dengan penuh kesabaran.